And just for, I'll go out and buy one.
I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order for Thursday, April 16th. If you don't mind standing with us as we do our pledge of allegiance and our moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a moment of silence as we consider with gratitude our first responders and our military personnel.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending on our makeshift Thursday night meeting. We appreciate your participation. As a quick reminder, for public comment, we will go ahead and ask people in the room first, and then we will move to people on Zoom. So with that, tonight the board had an executive session for legal issues. Also from the chairman's report, not this Saturday, but the next Saturday will be EP Scotian Beautiful Day at 8 a.m. with a rain date of Sunday the 26th. And then Arbor Day will be held immediately after the Kiwi Scotian Beautiful Day, as well as thank you to Ms. Julietta from our last meeting had talked about reviving our historical commission. We now will begin to advertise our ABC volunteer application for that specific commission if anyone's interested. And as well as what we've been talking about the last couple of months, in place of our normal community day, we'll be partnering with West Goshen on Saturday, May 30th from 3 to 9, where we will have a Colonial Town Square, Revolutionary War Cannon, live music, plenty of moon bounces for our kids in the township, as well as a drone fireworks show to wrap it up. And again, that's going to be in place of our normal community day. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move to public comment for anything that's not agenda related. Start in the room first to see if anyone has anything that's not agenda related.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Just please state your name if you're an East Goshen resident.
East Goshen, yeah, Russ Frank, East Goshen resident. One comment I'd like to make, don't think it's on the agenda, is the data center issue. And I went to the planning meeting. And I was quite surprised by that most of the members of the board didn't even know we had a data center. And I felt that they're part of the planning commission. They should know exactly what's going on in the township. So like I said, that's really surprised me.
Thanks, Russ. I think a lot of times when people think data center, they think of the 1.2 million square feet data center that's being proposed.
And I did bring that up to them. I said, if we got classifying small data centers to large data centers. And like I said, it's really surprised me.
I don't think it's just the size, though. I think it's the nature of the data centers from when they came about. I mean, I think that was approved back in the 90s, I want to say.
2008, the one in our park.
That was the expansion, okay. So I think there's definitely a difference in what's being done, not just the size, but what's being done at those ones that are owned by the Comcast of the world versus these huge AI companies. So I actually commented on this in an email when today is I think there needs to be a definition change Commonwealth wide to distinguish data centers like the controversial one in East Whiteland versus some kind of data center that's delivering broadband internet to residents. There's nothing on the books to make that distinction.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm for data centers. I'm really not. I was talking to Larry, and Larry opened my eyes about some of the stuff on this. So I'm not for them. This just really just surprised me that we didn't even know our backyard had one.
I do think it's probably just a definitional thing that what, as George pointed out, what we've been calling, what has been called a data center in the past is just very different from the issue that is now coming up all across Pennsylvania, frankly, across the country, in these massive AI data centers that are using up huge amounts of energy. And so it's it's, you know, it's semantics, but yes, Comcast has something it's calling a data
Yeah.
center, but it hasn't caused the kind of essentially environmental problems that the new data centers, have created a concern about that.
Thank you, Russ, for your comment. I appreciate it. Anything else in the room as it pertains to public comment? Okay, go to the Zoom room. I don't see anything, so we're gonna go ahead and move forward with emergency services reports. I don't see the chief, and I'm not sure if he's attending, so I'll go ahead and welcome Grant up for Goshen Fire Company.
Good evening. Report for the month of March, we had 66 fire calls, 24 of which were in East Goshen Township. We had 27 fire police calls, 7 of which were in East Goshen. And 419 EMS calls, 173 of which were in East Goshen Township. We had we had one serious fire on Twin Lane in East Goshen and Hershey's Mill. Then we had a small building fire at Summit House on March 31st. We also had a successful flower sale, Station 56 for Easter weekend. That went pretty well. We're looking forward to our next flower sale at Station 56 for Mother's Day.
Thanks, Grant. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, just if you could clarify for me, on page 5.
Mhm.
The type of calls, and you very nicely delineate between which are advanced life system and which are basic life system. So my question is, just to, again, for my own education, when it's an advanced life system, since we don't provide, Goshen doesn't provide advanced life system, does East Goshen respond and also Good Fellowship, or who is providing the advanced life support?
Either Good Fellowship or Malvern, depends on East Goshen. As by resolution, given sort of the northeast corner to Malvern, and then the rest of it is Good Fellowship.
Oh, I wasn't aware that Malvern had.
Everything
Advanced life support.
east of Ridley Creek basically is covered by Malvern's ALS.
So what is, if it's advanced life support, what is Goshen's role in that event?
So we respond, they
You both
respond with
respond.
us, yes.
Okay.
And they respond with a medic who, if it turns out to be an advanced life support need, then they'll fly us to the hospital. Probably 50% of the time we return the medic because it turns out to not need ALS service.
But they need them to respond in case.
Yes, it's protocol through the dispatch center, based on the information from the caller. Hit certain criteria, so they add the medic to the call. And then our folks can get there and evaluate and make a return medic analysis.
Perfect. Thank you very much for clarifying that for me.
Thank you, Barbara. Any other questions from the board? Any questions to the public or on the Zoom room for Grant? With that, Grant, enjoy the beautiful night outside. Thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you.
And as always, the Malvern Fire Company Good Fellowship packet is available online. No one has any comments from that on the board. We're going to go ahead and move forward with no public hearings tonight. Financial report, Kelly, it's time to shine.
At the end of March, the township's finances are on track financially. We collected $2,964,260 and spent $2,853,361. So in short, we've received $110,899 more than we've spent so far this year. As of March 31st, the entire general fund balance is $6,466,637. For the 2026 budget pilot, overall, we are about $1,060,000 ahead of where we expected to be at this point in the year. We received $808,700 more than we originally expected. This is largely due to the high collection in property tax, transfer tax, and earned income tax. We also saw more activity than expected in building and reoccupancy permit. Overall spending is $258,373 lower than planned. We saved money due to lower costs for police services, less spending in engineering work, and lower than expected wages in finance, sewer, and stormwater department. Are there any questions on the finance?
I'd like to move ahead. Any other questions from the board? Thanks, guys. Any questions in the room? Cool. I'm gonna go ahead and move forward as I entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the February 3rd, 17th, and March 17th meetings.
Chairman, I move to approve minutes for both days.
For all 3 days,
All three days.
Great, thank you, Barbara. Any comments or concerns from the board? Questions in the room? Zoom room? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Jess, for doing those. Going to move ahead to treasurer's report. Back to you, Kelly.
Treasurer's report is covering our financial activity from March 12th to April 9th, 2026. During this period, the general fund was supported by a few main sources. This includes real estate earned income, local services, and property transfer taxes. We also received income from permits, fees, rentals, and park and rec programs. Additional support from rent, interest, and our quarterly recharges. Our expenses for this month focused on essential services that keep the community safe and well maintained. This includes keeping our buildings in good repair, maintaining our vehicles, purchasing highway materials, funding for our park and rec events and maintenance, routine costs for legal and engineering services, insurance, and progress billing for our annual audit. We successfully boosted our capital reserve fund by an additional $121,750 through the sale of 2 older vehicles, a Peterbilt 348 dump truck and a Ford F-350. We use the infrastructure sustainability fund to cover important water sampling costs, ensuring our local environment stays protected. Are there any questions on the treasurer's report?
Thanks for that summary. Any questions from the board? The bills?
No.
Any questions in the room? Zoom room? Okay, go ahead and entertain a motion if they would like to make one.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the receipts and approve the expenditures as presented in the expenditure register and as summarized in the treasurer's report. Second.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Ann. With that, I'll go ahead and call the motion. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. And as we move forward, as prerogative of the chair, I'm going to go ahead and move up under new business D zoning hearing board application 1409 Manley Road for the variance. I'm gonna let the board try and find that in a portion of their packet as I turn it over to Derek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am very surely going to turn it over to Kelly Kraus, Director of Code Enforcement on this one, but I did just want to give an overview, particularly because we have new board members here this year. The way the process works for East Goshen Township, slightly different than some townships here in the county. Whereas we have the zoning hearing board is a quasi judicial board that does not answer to the board of supervisors. Their decisions are final. We do not get a say in their final decisions. But for East Goshen, it does zoning hearing board application does go through the planning commission and then the board of supervisors first for board members to take a look at the application and see if they traditionally want to support, be against, or stay neutral on the particular issue. I will say in my tenure here, it's mainly been 98% of the time stay neutral and let the zoning hearing board do their job. And the other way it comes in is if there's a greater public interest for a zoning hearing question, and then the board may have another way to go about it. But I just wanted to give some background on how these are usually happen because they don't happen often, and we do have some new board members that never tackled this before. So with that, I will hand it over to Kelly.
So the zoning hearing board application for 1409 Manley Road is in respect to proposed lot size. They're seeking to subdivide the current property where there's 1 single family dwelling into 3 new lots, so 3 total, where two of the lots wouldn't meet the minimum lot area of 18,000 square feet. The lot, sorry, lot one, would contain 17,133 square feet. Lot two would actually exceed slightly, the 18,000, and lot three would contain 17,285 square feet. The applicant's, basis is essentially that the title line of the property extends over the cartway. So providing much more area of the legal portion of the lot than most people, different people. The planning commission did recommend to move this application forward to the board upon recommendation from Mark Miller, of Works Department, regarding whether he felt it was necessary to provide an additional 25, to provide the full 25-foot right away on that side of the street, so they're currently providing 16.5. He has he's recommended that no, they have no need for the additional 7.5 feet of right away.
Thanks, Kelly. Anyone have any questions for Kelly while she's up here about the application?
So I'm just curious, on the, I guess it's the northeast side of the property, according to, like, this is through the western. What properties are adjacent to that? And have neighbors been consulted, and what does it do to their view?
So, the property on the opposite side of the street is the Fair Knoll, condos. On the opposite side on either end and behind are single family dwellings. I think it's also actually important to note that I did miss this earlier, that the application would be by right, it would be a by right subdivision, not needing a variance. If it were, 3 lots, but 2 of the lots were halves between. So the applicant is proposing 3 single family dwellings, and therefore requesting the variance for that reason.
So again, my question was about the northeast part, not the opposite side of the road, not the other side of Manley Road, but the other side. It's single family homes, and I'm just wondering what geographic or planting is between those properties to switch from a single family home to a 3 single family homes.
As far as the existing plantings,
What would be the plan for?
You asked, so what would the buffer be, so to speak, I guess? Yeah.
so we aren't quite there yet. This plan, if approved by the zoning hearing board for the variance, would then move back to the planning commission, back to this board for approval for those respects. So the provisions of the subdivision and land development ordinance aren't totally in play yet, haven't been designed yet, because we're still in a preliminary process.
But the board would eventually get a say in that sort of thing as far as input on landscaping.
Great, thank you, Barbara. Anyone else, any other members of the board have any questions? Okay, if I understand Mr. Campbell's here, he doesn't have to talk, he doesn't like that I wanted to offer that opportunity if he did.
Sure.
You don't have to if you don't want to, but if you do, you just want to go up to the podium, say your name and if you're a East Scotia Township resident.
My name's Andrew Campbell. I live in Newtown Square. Oh,
There you go.
I live in Newtown Square, still doing me. I inherited this property after the loss of my brother, and I've renovated the home lovingly, and that's really first.
Great, thank you. I think I'll make just one comment for the board. I think since I've been on the board now for 5 years, I think this has come before us 5 or 6 times. I think there's only been one time that I've ever supported recommending to the zoning hearing board on a position where I stood. I think just from a standpoint of jurisdictional power, I prefer not to make any recommendations to the board to try and influence the zoning hearing board by my thoughts personally. So that's where I'm at, is just taking no action as the board. I don't know where anyone else is, but I just thought I'd put it out there where I'm at.
So what they're proposing is just a little bit less road frontage between the house and the road.
They're meeting the minimum width requirements for the district. It's
No,
the-
From the house to the road, it looks like it just cuts a corner off a little bit, because it goes, what's the road it goes over to? I forget.
So it's Manning Road, and Manning Road curves.
And then it goes, drops onto the other one, because there's an apartment complex across the street from that.
Right.
I can't remember the name of that.
So what they're
I don't know.
proposing
Side or no?
reduces the lot size as a whole, the
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
area.
Mhm.
But no difference in width, than what's required.
So just the house is a little bit closer to the road, would be the only thing.
The road's not moving.
No, not the roads move, but the house setback, it's a little bit closer, just the corners, right?
Right, so,
That's what it looks like from the drawing.
because of the additional right of way isn't being requested. Would be slightly closer to the physical carway, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's the biggest issue, right?
well, the variance is for the lot area.
Yes.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion from the board if anyone wants to make anything.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend to the Board of Supervisors take no action at this time on this variance and have it moved to the zoning board.
Thank you, Larry. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. I'm going ahead and, before I go to some of the Zoom room, I'm gonna see if there's anyone else in the room that wants to make public comment. Zoom room it is. Jay and Terry, if you want to go ahead and unmute.
Yes, I had a question. My name's Jay Manos. And I had a question on where all the surface water was going to go when they build these 3 houses, or they build the 2 additional houses. And what is the percentage of impervious surface that is required?
Thanks, Jay. We'll have Kelly's come up to the mic now.
Hi, so the stormwater management requirements will be addressed if this application were to go to subdivision and land development approval. They would need to meet the same, infiltration rates and, other requirements in stormwater management ordinance. As any other property that is, developed with 1,000 square feet or of impervious surface or more. So they would need to prove that they're actually improving the amount of stormwater runoff that's currently taking place on the property, and not further impacting it. As for impervious surface area, that particular district, I don't have it in front of me, but I can move up just a bit.
Thanks, I just not a question.
Is it? Well, 35? I thought so, thank you. It's a 35% maximum impervious surface ratio for the lot.
So the question comes up, I just want to interject because that question comes up a lot in modern times here regarding stormwater and impervious surface. I will say that from my standpoint, in my opinion, it's the Act 167 for Chester County and then the Commonwealth. The stormwater standards nowadays at the Commonwealth and at the county are so rigorous that the township is usually a little bit of an afterthought in this regard, in my opinion. Again, we are there to make sure that they are adhering to the laws that they need to adhere to, but the laws that they need to adhere to, because of the Act 167 that was passed, I don't know how long ago it's been, but when you're getting into NPDES and Clean Water Act, it's a lot of things they need to do in order to comply with that.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Kelly. Jay, did you have any other questions?
Yeah, if I may, what are the setbacks for the adjacent properties? How close can they get to the other property?
So they would follow the same setback regulations for any other property in the district. And this is in particular the R3 zoning district, which requires a 30-foot minimum rear yard setback, a 20-foot minimum side yard setback, and a 30-foot minimum front yard setback.
Okay, thank you. Jay, anything else? Okay, with that, we've had comments from both the Zoom room and the public room. With that, we've had a first and a second. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and call a motion in favor to take no action on this in regards to the zoning hearing board. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Great, thank you. And we're gonna go ahead and go back to old business. Item A, the Dandelion Digital. I'm gonna turn it over to Derek here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this, I think it was requested at the last meeting, maybe we talk about this again, just to bring it up and see what everybody thinks. I will say this is a little bit of my fault, but the actual RFP that Dandelion provided us, I did not forward that to the board till this week, till I got back from vacation. So I don't know if, I mean, there's nothing pressing here. I don't know if the board wants time to digest that RFP a little bit more and then talk about it at the May 5th meeting. Or that was just a suggestion. We could talk about any kind of anything the board wants on this subject. I just didn't have too much structure to this conversation and was just going to either let you talk about any thoughts at all on it. I know some of the bigger issues are, the financial piece of it, but I will wait for comment.
So I just want to express my surprise that if this is the final RFP from Dandelion, that they didn't change all the references of East Whiteland Township to East Goshen Township for the appropriate years. So I would just note that as a little bit sloppy.
Gotcha.
Especially for a digital company who's doing, so I noticed that. And I also, we had talked about what are we gonna do for those who have no email, and about a print version, and there is absolutely nothing in this RFP that addresses a print version, what it would cost us, how it would be made, when it would be made available. So I went through this, I didn't
So-
see anything about the cost of the print version.
So the print version is technically on us, on the township side. So when we talk about the print version, we would do that in-house. So they basically would give us a PDF at our request. And then we would handle the print version from there. I mean, we would find a publishing company. And there's tons of them around here that we can do that with, and then and then print that off. So that's why it's not included as a service. That would be on us.
And we currently use a printing house
We
for
do.
our
Yeah.
current.
Yeah.
Yes. So we would need to add that cost to the cost of shifting from print to digital. And I would wanna have in the RFP that they would provide us at request at non-additional cost a PDF to take to printing.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fine. So, and then as far as the additional costs, the biggest piece, and the opt-in people will not be as much as people think. I think it's just the way it goes. So I'll just throw out a number that's pretty high actually, but if 400 people in the township requested, I think that would be pretty high, just from my experience with it. But so we have to look at what we currently do now for mailing and what that mailing number would be in terms of publishing it and then mailing it. So the actual hard copy obviously is going to go down in cost, but that's still a portion that's on us. So you're correct in that that's part of the overall equation of our newsletter cost. That's just not a Dandelion cost,
Right.
if that makes sense. But I can request that and express.
Have we heard from other municipalities or that are clients of Dandelion?
Mhm.
Have we just gotten like recommendations what people think about their overall service?
Yes, they have 9 municipalities now, I think. I've talked to 6 of the managers, I think, out of those. So they're very happy. I mean, I'm a former client, full disclosure, but yeah, the township managers that all are happy with it.
Yeah.
The other thing is there's not, because I've had this question in my mind too, there's really not an equivalent of them in this area. So they have had this niche, like they've been able to fill for specifically for municipalities. I'm not saying there's not other digital communication companies around, but just ones that kind of focus on municipalities and understand how municipalities churn out these communications, so.
So in their little niche, they're kind of a monopoly, you know.
In the southeast region, for sure, yeah.
And I have to say that I agree with Barbara that it did shock me that you're trying to hire a communication company.
Yeah.
And then you just think they didn't copy edit this very well. But at the same time, I think that, you know, the overall combination of services, I think is something that you probably want.
And again,
Yeah.
go ahead, sorry. Go.
No.
I was just gonna say, I think I brought this up last time, but obviously this wasn't budgeted for 2026, but the further along we go in the year is less and less money. And then, you know, if we were to, whenever we start it, at that point, if it is in 2026, obviously if it's not until 2027, then that's can be budgeted anyway, and it doesn't matter. But
What I was gonna say is it may be that we can consider the communications aspects for the township in conjunction with the comprehensive plan. There are elements of the comprehensive plan that will engage the community in all sorts of ways. And it may be that out of those conversations with the community, we'll actually gain an understanding of even more strategic ways to deal with the community. So I just offer that up as a possibility and a potential recommendation.
So I would almost be more in favor of engaging in a digital communication as preliminary to the comprehensive plan so that we can engage more of the community
during the process.
during the process of the comprehensive plan. But I think that this RFP, we need to flesh it out a little bit more in terms of what the cost is actually gonna be for our total communications and what the plan is for onboarding people for whom we don't have email addresses yet. And, you know, what that process looks like and how they're gonna guide us through that process. So I would wanna flesh this out, but I like the idea of moving toward a greater way of reaching out to the community in advance of the comprehensive plan so that more people might be brought on board and in communication with the process of the comprehensive plan.
The only reason that I suggested otherwise is that I think to some extent we will have the equivalent of a set of people who are dealing in communications who will give us demographic information that would guide the content. I agree with you that from a digital, actually getting something out that is digitized ahead of time is a really good idea. That the actual vehicle for the content is something very different. And we're gonna gain all sorts of information. If we don't, then I think we won't have done the comprehensive plan side very well. So I, like you, would approve going forward with a firm working with us. But I'd like to hold back a little bit in terms of having real strategy. I mean, one of the things you said about the fact that they do, in fact, do all of these other municipalities. I'm just worried that we will become like all the others, as opposed to really looking at how to communicate effectively as we look toward the future and change. It's just my 2 cents worth from my own professional background in communications.
So one of the things I can do is have a conversation with Linda and maybe get a little bit more detailed pages on their onboarding process and how they go about that.
Yeah, we don't want to fall over. We don't have that. We don't want to have something that's tripping over something else is what I'm worried about.
I'm gonna say my primary concern has to do with is onboarding and given how few township residents we currently have email lists.
That's exactly right.
So I think the general consensus here among the board is that we're going to flesh this out and bring it back.
Okay.
I think one thing that I would like to add as pertains to this, I'm happy we're about $1 million ahead of schedule here. I think I'd be interested in what the price difference would be of what we're currently spending and what we would be doing for this and what the difference would be if possible next time we have that conversation, but the rest of the board's okay with that too.
Can we say that? Say that again?
Like how much we're spending on the print version versus
Oh.
how much when we transition to this, what the difference would be. And how much more a year would be.
Yeah.
But this is doing more than just an email newsletter. This is also managing the website content and our Facebook content and all of it.
Absolutely.
Let's see, then the content's more rapid fire coming out monthly as well.
Right. But correct me if I'm wrong, it's 3 social media posts a week based off of just what was in the newsletter and that the content that they would be putting on the websites from the newsletter. It's not.
Yeah, no, the content's all derived from the newsletter. It's just the different platforms that they utilize in order to put that information out there. So
I think we're all in agreement here on the board to be able to be more communicative to our residents, just making sure we do it the right way and most effective way. So,
Absolutely.
Peter, Jim,
When's the next newsletter go out from East Goshen?
It just came out.
yeah, just keep.
got it in the mail already?
Quick. I mean, whenever it does come out, so whenever it does come out, and you put something in there stating, we'd like to get you your email address for better communication, start now. We'll put that in there.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think the issue is the problem with the print is that we have to get this done in February to come out in April, right?
Whenever,
So for our next.
whenever it can
I
get
mean,
done.
we could even just start advertising constant contact more. You know, I mean, that's what we use.
Whatever works, however. you
Yeah,
want.
I mean, we can definitely do that as well.
On the website.
Yeah, on the website, Facebook,
Yeah.
social media.
Or maybe put something on the website also saying, we're trying to move forward with better digital communication. Before we do anything else, just start it.
Yeah,
Put it out there so people know.
Like that.
absolutely.
And even when you go to the website, you can create a pop-up or I'll leave the smart people figure out that, so.
Yeah, see how many people you just get from that.
Yeah.
You don't have to hardly do it.
I like that.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move that to the back burner for a little bit. I guess it's discussion, but I would be to save us time at the end if anyone has any comment or questions about this. Go ahead, Russ. I knew you would be. I knew you were sitting on the edge of your seat, so.
Just have 2 points. One is, Barbara, with your comments and how they did not provide a proper documentation, how flawed it was. Why would we even think about going to a company that didn't give us enough respect to make it the perfect prompt proposal? That's what I don't understand. But the second thing is, I'm sorry. go
That's
ahead.
all right. I'll just say, I'm familiar a bit with RFPs and there are a lot of cut and paste, and it's not terrible that they missed 2 cut and paste and changing it to East Goshen, but I was surprised. So
Well, let me ask you this, Barbara, there was 2 presentations coming, both had the same wording except the Proposition B had everything perfect as far as representation. Who would you pick?
I'd go with the one who got it right.
You know, that's what it means. If they don't do this right, then how are they going to do our thing right?
That's why I asked about the feedback that we've gotten from the municipalities that have used them. Like all of us, I was kind of surprised to see East Whiteland Township in there. In the scheme of things, and I noticed it, so it was a negative. In the scheme of things, this is a firm that is now experienced and pretty much widespread in the area in doing municipal communications. If they made mistakes, if they made significant mistakes that our fellow municipalities were worried about, I would want to know that, but so far we haven't heard that.
And probably would not have said it either, to be honest with you.
The only thing I'll add to this conversation.
I think Barbara did us a service here by pointing out a problem.
Well, the only
And
thing
all
I'll,
I'm saying is, think about that going forward.
the only thing I'll add to the conversation is I'll go back and see if like I got an email after the fact saying, oh, I made this mistake. Let me send you the real one. I don't know if I did because I kind of searched the name and then pulled this up. So if there was one that came out subsequent of this that made corrections, then that was my fault and I'll apologize, but I don't know if that's the fact or not.
And the last comment I have is when what was her name, Linda? Gave the presentation? Lady gave the presentation.
Yes.
When she gave the presentation, something she said struck a nerve. And I questioned about it. She said that she would provide detailed information of who submitted some suggestions. And when I questioned her about it, she gave me kind of like a weak answer that, oh, no, we don't do that. I'm just worried about the security of identities of people that they're searching the webs on finding out how they're making comments about East Goshen. That's my only concern. I'm a little nervous about what my question was and her response was.
Appreciate your concern, Russ. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna go ahead and move on to everyone else's favorite subject here. We'll continue with comprehensive plan discussion. Derek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, just again, trying an effort to move this conversation along in public. I did just take the initiative to just try to give a few examples here of RFPs and what they look like, just so we can have something in front of us and not as abstract as maybe some of the conversation we've been having. So as you can see, they're fairly similar in nature, the RFPs of comprehensive plan. I didn't attach it here, but actually I did obtain something from a municipality I thought was interesting, and I'll get it to you next time, but it's a scoring table for the RFPs, and it was pretty well done from, I think it was Phoenixville that I got it from. So I will attach that as well. In addition to the comprehensive plan, and I mentioned the kind of planning adjacent items, been having conversations, and Larry and Ann were also on some of the meetings with Heart and Soul program of for the Commonwealth. I think they're under DCED. Is that who they're with?
Actually, no.
They're humanities.
Oh, the
Humanity.
humanity. DCED is part of the funding for it.
Yeah.
And so not to get too much off on a tangent, but they actually do a program that also is more geared toward strategic community communication, actually. So it kind of dovetails into this whole thing. And we were kind of looking at that and how can that complement the comprehensive plan. So I guess I bring that up to say our RFP, which I'm hoping to get a first draft of our RFP out to you guys in the public next month. But I think our RFP might look a little different in that I'm going to try to put in a section or multiple sections to sort of spell out these planning adjacent items and just making it more. It's funny that, the term comprehensive plan, you would think you wouldn't have to make more holistic. But I think we had all agreed that the way it's done in order to satisfy the municipality planning code is not really holistic in terms of some of the things with resident communication and different strategies that just don't go into a land use based comprehensive plan. So again, hoping to have the RFP for you to review soon, but I will let the board comment and have that discussion now.
I'd like to just comment very briefly, and that is to say that one of the things that has struck me is the lack of a real economic analysis that would drive a financial side of the comprehensive plan. It seems to me that if you're doing a comprehensive plan, you run and you don't have such an analysis that yields a financial plan. You run the risk of developing a plan that is broken dreams, and that you won't be able to afford. So that is one of the things that we're looking at, is how we can actually get a handle on the economic situation in the township so that we're able to do a plan that really is an effective plan and is a first-class plan.
I agree with that. And I would say that, first of all, I liked these RFPs. I thought that both the Phoenixville one and the West Grove one seemed pretty useful. And I thought that we could add to them by saying, if we wanted to do an additional engagement program like Heart and Soul, we could add something to say that the planner, whoever planner that we choose, we want to make sure that that planner is coordinating with the communications and the outcomes and the reports that are coming out of the Heart and Soul project. We'd also, I think, to follow up on what Ann said, we'd also want to make sure, I think, to add to our comprehensive plan RFP, that a fiscal or economic element that looks at the township's fiscal sustainability over the next few years is an important element. Whether or not they do that themselves or they subcontract for it, I think it's an important element, because how you use your land kind of depends on, what it's going to do to the township's economics and demographics and tax situation. So I like these RFPs as models. I think we can amend them with, we can add things that make it more comprehensive and make sure that the ultimate consultant that we hire is incorporating other elements into it.
I agree. And Derek, I'm wondering if you would be willing to give us all a week to give you feedback on these and what we would add or how we might edit before you come back with like a final RFP. Like, give us a little bit of time to look at these, say, I like this. I want to make sure we add the economic plan. I want to be sure we add, what does this mean for traffic safety? What does this mean for, whatever things we think may or may not be in it, or how we would like to see it formatted, how we would like it to represent East Goshen, which is a unique community, and none of these fit exactly, but we want to represent East Goshen. If we all have a week to respond to these and sort of give you some feedback about what we think should be included and.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be tweaking this for another few weeks, so that's plenty of time. I will say, we definitely have to flush out, and we may need more expertise on how to add the economic component if we wanted to do it in conjunction. I have talked to a few people in municipal finance firms. I had conversations with them just because this had come up before in another meeting. I know I had conversations with Ann and Larry about it. A lot of them, not saying it's not a good idea, but it's just not an idea that's out there a lot and is done right now. A lot of the finance people said, I've never heard of tying in sort of a financial component into the comprehensive plan. So again, I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm just saying we're going to have to flush that out as a group and see how we can satisfy everybody here.
That is exactly what concerns me. I have to say, because when you plan, you're planning, from my perspective at any rate, you are planning for the people who live here. And it is up to the people who live here to actually weigh in on what trade-offs they want to make. It's not up to the supervisors to do that. It is up to having conversations in the community that gives them enough information that they can make trade-off recommendations as citizens. And so I'm a little worried that this sort of past has driven a cookie cutter approach that isn't really planning for the future. And that it's leaving out elements that maybe we could be a model in establishing something going forward. And I don't think that costs more money. I think that means using money wisely.
Now, there are firms I talked to that said there's absolutely long-term financial plans that are done for townships and municipalities. And it's a matter of, again, kind of tying it into a comprehensive plan process. So I guess to what was brought up earlier, does that mean a planning firm would sort of sub that out to a more financial firm in conjunction with the overall process?
And it's also conceivable, it may not be ideal, but it's also conceivable that they don't have to be done as one package. That it's conceivable that you could do the comprehensive plan, and you could, that includes a lot of community engagement. And then subsequently, or maybe next year, hire the financial firm to do a fiscal analysis. And if that then requires some additional modification to the plan, plans should be modified with new information in any event. But I don't think, and so that's conceivable. It may not be ideal, because I think that the ideal thing would be for the plans to reflect not just, as Ann pointed out, the residents' aspirations about the township, but also to reflect realistic trade-offs in terms of what's the economic impact, what are you willing to pay for? And that's always an important question. The impact on taxes and on economics is not, it's not incidental when you're thinking of planning for the land use system.
And frankly, continuing to look at that plan every year to identify whether aspects of it are working or not, and revising it accordingly is absolutely essential. And I don't think that's being done in most townships. And I would really encourage that we as a board, that is the responsibility of the board to continue to look at the plan as it evolves.
Thank you, and thank you, Barb and Larry, for your comments. Just a couple quick things. Obviously, I think there's a lot of good material here. Derek, thanks for pulling it all together. I agree that we'll work together on trying to figure out what we can compile. I think I see the economic study per se, or however you want to phrase it, similar to what Larry just said about maybe not doing it alongside of, but maybe something we can see what the comprehensive plan produces and what that would then afterwards, see how much it'll cost. And I do think that Kelly and her team could probably do a decent amount of what that would involve and what we could do planning wise. So again, I'm not against a economic study alongside, but I do think we could potentially do some of that in-house. Again, for the comprehensive plan, I'm okay doing outside of house, but I think it'd be worth experimenting, or not experimenting because they already do it. They do long-term planning already, budgeting, and sort of see what Kelly's team could work alongside with us during the process as well. So maybe we may not need to even go out for that, but again, just comments in general. Peter, Jim, anything you wanted to add?
Oh, no, I don't.
Yeah. Any other board comment before I open it up to public comment in the room? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and open up the comment to the room. If you just want to come up to the podium, please, and state your name if you're an East Goshen resident.
I am Kenan Flanagan. I've been an East Goshen resident for 50 years. The 50 years is going to be relevant on this. Over the course of that time, half a century, I've seen the township change a lot on this. For the first 40 of those years, there was no comprehensive plan. It was pretty much kind of a whack-a-mole. You guys are all aware of that. And done in a haphazard manner. First comprehensive plan came out about 10 years ago. And there was not a lot of community involvement, a little bit. And when I looked at it, my first reaction is whoever put this together was smoking dope, the cheap stuff. But I dismissed it because my theory was nobody would ever do this. Unfortunately, I should have paid more attention. Now, what happened there is that comprehensive plan had, I'm going to say, an overweight influence by developers, consultants, contractors, and actually a business in the area. And they all profited from how this was put together on this. As the residents, we didn't see the same profit. We didn't share this. And in fact, the town, as they put it together, this goes to Ann's comment, it was unrecognizable as the East Goshen at that time. Really at the core of this, and as a result of this plan, and really what it led to was we had less green space than we had before and still do. And the zoning was put in place that will continue. We're looking for more high density zoning, came about it from it. Millions of dollars were in the view of many of the citizens misspent. And of course, we engaged in an eminent domain that really was not heavily supported around this. But none of you here were involved in that. And we have a new opportunity to recast this. My view is at the core of what happened, what went wrong, was a lack of transparency. Groups working behind the scenes, things pulled together, plop, here it is. The citizenry did not have enough engagement or enough knowledge that this really was going to happen on this. What I'm looking for from the Board of Supervisors, and I think I'm hearing what I like here, is a commitment to transparency on how this goes about, of engagement with the population. So we don't see the surprise that we got like, oh crap, this is what they were really talking about on this. So what I'm asking for on the Board of Supervisors is a commitment to transparency in the process as it goes along. Transparency not from the board, only from the board, but from the committees and even to the third parties that you may hire, so that we've got an engagement along the way. That's my ask. Thank you.
I think that is absolutely what we hope to do. That is what we're trying to do, Ken. First of all, the comprehensive plan is a legal requirement. The township has to do it. And I think most townships just say, something you have to do every 10 years. Yeah, check the box. So they hire a firm does something fairly cookie cutter. It's not broadly communicated. It doesn't reflect the township's aspirations or values. And almost everybody assumes that you produce the document, you satisfy the legal requirement, it goes on the shelf and nothing happens. Because no one really wants it. That's exactly what we don't want to do. Since there's a legal requirement to do it, I would like it to be meaningful to the township as a whole. That means, however, there are a couple of hurdles for that. That means significant township engagement. You actually get the people residents in the township to come to meetings and express the kinds of things that they actually want in terms of the future. That's number one. That's the reason why Ann and I have brought up the fiscal element, is because it has occurred to me, the way you use land, which is the comprehensive plan, primarily about the way you use land. But the way you use land ultimately affects the tax base, and affects the township's economics, and therefore a financial economic modeling may be useful to say, if the township says, okay, we just want to preserve a lot more open space. Maybe we want this kind of development. Maybe we don't want that kind of development. It would be useful for people to understand this is going to cost such and such in terms of taxes, or this, on the other hand, might have a beneficial impact on taxes in the future. It would be nice if we actually had if not only we as the supervisors, but the people who live here have those inputs before as they understand what they're essentially wishing for in terms of the future township.
So support that approach, and I like what I'm hearing tonight.
All right, but of course, as everyone has indicated, we're kind of doing something that hasn't been done yet.
It's different. There's no doubt about it. And in a way, the model exists out there that we're talking about in other nonprofit organizations. And you really have to engage everyone. If you don't have your consultants also meeting with your community, which is something I heard you say, there was not a face to the people who were actually doing professionally the planning, then why do the plan?
Yeah.
And I've seen and been part of plans that have been highly successful because of the fact that it's been the community. Now, do you satisfy everybody? No, you don't. And I think we all have to go into this knowing that there are certain design elements that some people will favor and some people won't. But it will be up to the community ultimately to make that decision along with us.
Karen, I'd like to respond to you just by reading part of one of the RFPs that I kind of starred because I liked what it said. And it says the goals of the citizen participation process are to, one, educate involved parties about the comprehensive plan's role and importance to the community. So educate, disseminate information to interested and involved parties. We all have talked about ways we want to disseminate more information, provide effective and efficient mechanisms for gathering public input of the on various issues, and engage the community and build consensus throughout all phases of the planning process. So I kind of starred that this is a good, something we might pull out of this RFP and build upon.
And hence, by the way, the discussion about communications and turning over to more e-communications with the township, because there will be a challenge. The challenge will be getting people to engage. So the better our overall communication structure with the residents, the more successful this is likely to be.
Thank you, board members. I think I speak on behalf of all of us that we're committed to a transparent process and a community involved process. I hope you could see that from just the dandelion presentation or their RFP, and I think other things that the boards handle things this year. I think we've been very transparent, and I'm not saying we're slow walking this by any means, but we're not rushing to get it done. We want to make sure we do it the right way. And I think one thing, it's speaking just about the comprehensive plan in general before I go back to public comment, is one thing I'm really interested in is doing a lot of these focus groups or getting community involvement, even if that means we have to go to Hershey's Mill Estates, or if we have to go to Pin Oaks or Marydale or Bow Tree and work with the HOAs, make sure that we leverage them and their relationships they already have to get people out in the community. It's something that I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, will attend those meetings to make sure we're hearing right from people, because it's I know it's a Thursday night, but we have 4 of you in here, right? So doing our best, if that means we have to go to their neighborhoods and get feedback, it's something I think we're all committed to doing. But I'll get off my soapbox. I'm willing to continue public comment if anyone has anything else in the room.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, any other public comment about the comprehensive plan discussion? Nothing in the Zoom room. So I guess, Derek, our next steps are that you are gonna wait. I don't, when does the board want to get a week, 2 weeks for feedback on what you want?
Yeah, a week is not enough since we're going to PFAS next week. So
when's our next meeting? May 5th?
Yeah, the draft might not be done by the next meeting, but I'm hoping by the meeting after that, we have something out. Yeah.
So you work with us individually, make sure all of our. Yep, perfect. Go ahead and move on to trash bid discussion. Not a conversation I'd like to have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for board members that were here last year, they may remember that we did opt to delay the trash bid until this year. We cannot delay it anymore. We have to go out to bid. This is the last year of the options to extend it. So starting January 1st, 2027, we will be under a new contract, possibly a new company, depending on the results of this, obviously. So we did tweak it a little bit. This is the draft, so we welcome comments over the next several weeks. I know this is a big document, so don't feel I'm giving you some homework, additional homework. So just provide us some feedback. I think the biggest thing we were talking about last year that we are now not recommending is getting pricing for the automated side loading trash for a couple reasons. One, in doing more exploration of the subject, there's just not enough companies that actually have it, and that would probably limit the bids and hence drive up the cost. And then also just the culture here of East Goshen, it's going to be really tough to make sure we sort of transition into where you can only have it in the trash can, and because of the side loader, and it's just the residents here kind of expect a different level of service that the automated side loaders just do not offer, but the cost is the main thing as well. So again, that was a recommendation, or going to be a potential recommendation last year. Mark and I are not recommending that this year. If you want to have that conversation, let me know, but that I think was the biggest change coming out of last year.
Thanks, Derek. I think another thing of note too is, like you said, our residents are very fortunate in what our Linsky guys do and the extra stuff they pick up that's not in the trash. I think when we go for go forward if we receive some different bids about maybe rotating yard waste to bi-weekly, if there's any other ways that we can work together with them to figure out costs, I would be willing to have those discussions. I know that we're not gonna be as fortunate with the rate we have now. It's obviously gonna go up. We just don't know how much. So working to see what we can do to.
So just a quick yard waste, we are the only township I know that does weekly yard waste. Oh, it was shocking to me when I came here. The issue is, how do you do it? And still, so we talked about biweekly. Our problem or potential problem we see with that is people just not remembering what week it is and then having out the wrong weeks. But then a lot of places do it monthly, but then that really cuts it down to where we are now. And do we get a lot of pushback on that? So in my opinion, it's either monthly or the weekly, because the bi-weekly, I think, would get pretty confusing for people. But if that's the feedback that the board wants to give, that's fine, but.
Just trying to explore other opportunities.
Oh, no, yeah,
reduce costs.
trust me, Mark and I talk about yard waste probably once a week, so. I mean, it's something we can ask, but the yard waste is substantial and he's good.
Do our residents experience a kind of deluxe service that most of our neighboring municipalities are not getting?
I think the yard waste is the biggest thing in that regard. I mean, depending on the company, there are companies that do take extra out of the tote itself, toter. But the yard waste is the biggest thing. And then obviously the places that have the automatic side loader have to just keep it all in the toter. So
You should drive around East Goshen on bulk trash day. I think, and one other thing too, I think when we were talking about transparency and communications, I don't know if it was last year, the year before, we had to raise sewer rates and we did a whole rollout plan of communications. I would suggest, if I have enough support here on the board, when we do get bids and it does go up, that we have some type of a rollout plan to let residents know how much more it's going to go up and so forth, just so people understand budget accordingly.
yeah, I agree.
That start now, you just say, we're gonna go out to bid for trash services, we understand it's gonna go up. If you have, priorities for trash versus dollar versus weekly, begin to communicate that. Let them know now. Start educating and getting the word out, because it's gonna be a hard sell, because it's gonna be more money. And we know it's gone up all around us. And so the more communication we have and the more chance for input, is it important to you to have yard pickup every week? Or can you live with every other week to save money? Is it important to you to have 2 times a week? Or can you live with 1 time a week to save money in terms of general pickup? I think all of those things, we want to get some input from people, from the folks who are ultimately paying the bill.
Agreed, Barbara. And I think even my chairman's, whatever you put in the letter, I think we talked about anticipating that there will be an increase, but I think you're right. I think whatever we can do to preempt that would be helpful. I do see Julietta has her hand raised in the Zoom room, so we're going to head ask you don't need, go ahead and make your comment, please.
Oh, I can speak now?
The floor is yours.
Okay, I was under the impression that the yard waste was something that Blazinski asked, because when they take their trash to the landfill, they want it to be separated. So I think that weekly yard waste is good in the spring and in the fall, but it's not necessary all year round. But again, I thought I heard that way back when. It was something that Blazinski had requested.
No, that's incorrect. The one thing that did happen recently is Blazinski did come to us and ask if they can do bulk pickup more for no additional cost to the township, mainly because the bulk days were getting so heavy and they had to come back too much to the township to keep picking things up after they left. So it was requested upon us that they can do bulk pickup once a week, but the yard waste.
Eric, that may be before you. So check it out, because, I think that was the issue, but weekly trash pickup is not necessarily, maybe in the spring and fall. But I thought way back when It was a Blazinski request.
Julie, I appreciate that. I think you do make a good comment though about figuring out maybe certain months specifically we have yard waste, and I think it's appropriate for us to have those conversations with the trash bids to see where we can to save. So appreciate your comment. Thank you. Eric, if you have a comment, do you mind coming up, please? Your name, if you're an East Goshen resident, which I know you are, and I know Julietta is, and I think everyone else does, but.
Eric Meyer, East Goshen. So over 15 years ago, I started coming here because of this issue of trash. Been coming ever since. We had a lousy hauler prior to 2010. And we switched, I believe we've been with Blazinski since then. And I know you're not doing the auto loader, but just some comments. Auto loading is messy, stuff gonna be flying out every time they dump. You have to have your can all the way in the street, which is not gonna work well for most, because I've seen it in Lewistown where they would try to pick it up on Sugar Town Road and it'd be like, that can is right on the edge of the road. And I believe the reason we have yard waste is because the landfill stopped allowing yard waste in the trash. And I think you went to once a week, because I thought you went to once a week yard waste, because Blazinski said it was easier for them to pick it up. Just because it was so much if we waited monthly or something. But we used to do the few weeks in April and then in the fall and have it once a month.
Yeah, that conversation happened with Blazinski before me. Yeah. It might have been a selling point, but I don't know.
I appreciate both comments and specifically about the loader. I think another thing too, when we switched a couple years ago to the new recycle bins with the lids to help prevent trash recycling flying around, I think it's the same thing with a loader. We want to prevent as much trash as possible flying around.
So I'll talk to Mark. I think the biggest thing out of this conversation is maybe just talking a little bit more about the yard waste and seeing if there are any options on that front.
And if it doesn't save us that much money, then
yeah. And then obviously anything else the board has to add to it in the coming weeks.
Any before Russ gets up here or as he walks up here, any other comments about the trash? And all right, Russ, you should really sit closer. You don't have to sit in the back last row.
Yes. I'm a firm believer in two things. One is Blazinski is the best one that has been around here in the past 35 years. They really go out of their way to do a professional job. Second thing is we did, as Eric said, we did have it different pickups in the summer and towards the fall we pick up every week. Now, if we're going to eliminate that by going every other week or maybe once a month, I'm gonna have to buy more trash cans. Because especially in the fall when you have these leaves. I mean, I'm filling up 13 cans a week with leaves. I don't want to deal with 26. That's my funny comment.
Thanks, Russ.
Okay, thanks.
All right, I'm gonna head up. Go ahead. Should we?
I was gonna do that tonight, but trash, come on, let's not trash. I think a couple things. One is, I think that yard waste ought to be seasonal. Spring, fall, and that's it. So that'll cut. Number two, we've considered before eliminating twice a week pickup of trash. And we were told that it wouldn't save any money because you still have the same amount of trash. Your house still makes the same amount. So from the tonnage perspective, when we dump it, that's what we get charged for. I think that there's an advantage of once a week, and that is we don't have trash trucks going through our neighborhoods twice a week, every week, all year long. And that saves some fuel. It has to save Blazinski money because they're driving those trucks back and forth and the fuel costs and so on. So I think a once a week pickup is something I would make a recommendation to consider. Number three, I'm not a member of the Environmental and Sustainability Advisory Committee, but I've been attending the meetings. And we had a discussion about composting. And somebody in the meeting, I think it might have been me, went on Anthropic and did a back of the envelope for a township our size. If we could get half the households to compost, it would save, the number was between $150,000 a year. And then the high end was like 1.5 million. And the reason for the 1.5 was the stress on our solid waste management system, because people are pushing all that grease and food down the garbage disposal. So the ESAC is considering a campaign to educate people on the fact that what I know Mark Miller hates garbage disposals and white bees in the toilet. Those are the two things he hates. I think encouraging residents to compost could save money. I think once a week pickup could save money. Not from the tonnage, but from the gasoline that we ought to be able to have Blizzards give us a discount for that, because they're not paying for the gas. And I think yard waste should be seasonal.
So comment on David just spurred my thought, and this is an important point I forgot, whether it's once a week, twice a week. We are also putting in there doing the entire township in one day, because when I got here, and it's been, I guess, been that way for a while, is they split the township in two and rotating that every 3 years so that it evens out, because there's holidays on Mondays. And then you also have trash trucks here 4 days a week. So regardless of one day a week, 2 days a week, we're proposing in the RFP that a company, just like all the other townships, I mean, it's not a big ask because everybody else does it. They would do the entire township when they're here, not half of the township.
I would like that. If the rest of the board, I like the idea of just trying to see what 1 day a week would cost. I mean, I don't think there's any hurt in just getting as many different options.
Absolutely.
So everyone's okay with that. And I think one other thing too, Russ, you back up if you like. One other thing too, David, is ESAC hosted a composting seminar. I know Larry was there, Melissa and I attended last week. It was very educational. They talked, there are some boroughs or cities that are already doing that for all of their residents. So I think a trial run or something like that, specifically along with education. I mean, we're going to buy a geo bin, and we learned all the fancy terms and using our grass clips and stuff. So I think there's a lot of education that can be done. I think it'd be really helpful and save a lot of money.
Well, it's very interesting because my son lives in Brooklyn, and Brooklyn composts. They have compost pickup. And I might also add that my British American husband absolutely had the largest compost heap you can imagine, because the gardens in England are based on compost and not on mulch.
Very good. Thank you, Ann.
And I would just want to add that the whole idea of encouraging more people to compost just reinforces the idea that we need more and better communication. Because encouraging the community to do anything requires actually contacting them and messaging consistently about certain things.
Agreed. Russ, with the final comment before we move on.
Yeah, I thought Polinsky came to us saying they want to do yard waste once a week to keep their crews busy. That was the original
Yeah, I know
concept
that.
that was sent to us.
I know Julietta said something, Eric said something. None of us were here for the history. Maybe Peter will know. His family's been here hundreds of years, but as it pertains to, I got
35 years.
Yeah,
That's the
Yeah.
recommendation from Polinsky to keep their crews occupied.
Well, we'll make sure now that 2026, when we get a new trash bid, everyone will know the history of this one, and then we'll move from there. So, all right, I think
I have a quick comment.
Oh, please, sir.
Occupied is not our job.
Yeah.
Well, it's also not an issue nowadays.
So right now they're coming twice a week on the same street to pick up trash. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. So the truck can only hold so much, right? You pick up a can at every house. They pick up full cans at every house because they're picking full cans up at every house every day and filling the truck up. And then you have to be twice a week because the trucks are already full. We're gonna have more trucks in one day. Either way,
You're gonna have more trucks in one day, correct?
whatever, or they just pick up half cans, like tonnage wise. Is there a tonnage number that they pick up daily? They can tell you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up.
And how much each truck holds, and then you have some numbers to work with, like how many trucks it takes to haul East Coast trash out on a regular basis.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it'll definitely be if you do the entire township and not split it up, it'll absolutely be more trucks here.
No, but what I mean is, you said they're coming twice a week for trash. And I'm saying is, are the trucks full every time they leave the neighborhood? Or are they half full? Because if they're half full, then that's wasted space and that's wasted money and fuel. If they're full, they're full. There's nothing to do about that. That's so.
Yeah, I think it's fair point. I think when we have those discussions, so we should
Is that what that is?
I mean, for me, I'm half and half each week, but that's just me. House it too. All right, we've talked about trash enough. Let's go ahead and move to the Green Light Go grant application, Derek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think this was about, yeah, it says it right there, 7 years ago. West Goshen, Westtown, and East Goshen sort of worked together on this adaptive Westchester Pike signal system. So it's obviously for traffic flow purposes, and you have a corridor like that, it's not contained in one municipality. So municipalities got together, installed this new and really new technology that at the time, and in order to gain traffic flow improvement. Maybe people would disagree if they go out there now, but it actually, comparably, I think it works. I know I could see Cody's face right now, but anyway, so these systems admittedly are more expensive than the way that it was done years ago when it was more self-contained. So, it's software, it's components, hardware components, and this Green Light Go grant, and Pannoni's kind of running the show on this, but it's involving us, West Goshen, and Westtown, and you can see the amount of grant money we're kind of going after there, and the amount that it would be for each of the townships. I think out of pocket for the match, it's about 3 years, total of 86,000. So that would be $17,000 for us, $5,000 annually. So yeah, so I guess the biggest thing here is this is a way to fund components that we actually need that we're using. So this is going for the maintenance of the actual system that we have. And it also buys us some time, because right now Pannoni is evaluating whether this is the right system to keep using. Is there another way to sort of do it? New technology has come out since the 2019 installation. So it buys us time. It's paying for components and software and things that we're going to have out of pocket anyway. So I guess getting together with the municipalities and Pannoni, it's kind of a no-brainer to try to get money for this, because these are ongoing costs for these signals. So really what we're looking for tonight is a motion to allow the chairman and the township manager to sign the application in conjunction with West Goshen and Westtown.
I so move.
And I second.
Great, thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Larry. I'm gonna sound like an old supervisor here, but is this in the budget?
It is not in the, well, yeah, I mean,
Not why was it?
so Kelly, you can jump in here, but the thing is, the maintenance of these systems are in the budget because we have to do it. So
I didn't know if we were expecting it this
yeah,
year.
yeah. So the match, so it actually is just a bonus.
I love bonus.
Because we have to do it.
Perfect. Any other questions on the board about this? Any questions in the room? Zoom room? Oh, go ahead.
But more of a curiosity question directed to Derek. Still Ken Flanagan, from East Goshen.
Oh, go.
Yes, exactly. My interest, apparently these lights that you laid out are along Westchester Pike.
Mhm. Yes.
I'm curious if that same process could be applicable to certain intersections, other intersections within the township, and for a particular reason. I'll use as an example, Rocky Hill, 352 at Strasburg Road there. The traffic will be backed up for a half a mile plus. I'm less worried about people waiting. It's an inconvenience than I am on the quality of life because of the air pollution of those cars idling for long periods of time. And you can go through the area, you can now, because I've become more accustomed to fresher air. You can taste and smell it as you come into those areas where they are. So we have a few areas in the township where cars will sit backed up, intersections jammed for 15 minutes, get through the light. So I'm interested if there's a possibility that we can apply that same technology or similar technology to certain problem intersections as a quality of life issue.
Yep.
For us.
So I guess two-part answer is, one, I have to actually go back and see exactly. We have a list of our traffic signals we're responsible for and what technology exists.
State roads, obviously.
Yeah, but what technology, but interesting enough, we're responsible for all the maintenance, even if it's on a state road or the municipality is responsible for the maintenance and cost of the signal, regardless of the road is on. So I can look and see, because it's a good question in terms of, I don't know the specific technology of each of our signals and what it's on right now. So I'd be interested in seeing what that is. That's a Mark Miller question. He'll definitely know that. And then to answer your question, it definitely can be. It comes down to a cost benefit analysis. So a lot of this more expensive software and technology is concentrated in the corridors that have the most traffic and the rush hour. But the technology itself can be applied in any intersection.
Realize I'm hitting you, unprepared on that question there, but it struck me that this could be a quality of life from an environmental standpoint. Those areas, there's certain spots where the air in the township is not good.
I don't think any of us will argue against that. Thanks, Kenneth. All right, we're gonna have a motion, have a second. We're going to go ahead and call the motion. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We'll go ahead and move to the historical commission. I know we talked about it in the chairman's report. We are now advertising for the historical commission. Speak some members. Go ahead, Derek.
No, I was going to say, I said as of this writing, we have no inquiries regarding participation. We actually do. I think Ashley said she received one this week. I haven't been able to follow up to see who that was, but so we do have an inquiry on that. Getting the flyers out and just talking to Jason a little bit, sort of trying to, because the other thing is obviously if we do have people that are interested, we want to be prepared to educate them on the history, but also have sort of a guide of how we want to do this thing going forward so it doesn't happen again the way it did last time. So in the beginning stages, sort of getting the word out there, and I just want to really more of an FYI, but I wanted to put it on the agenda since we've been talking about it.
Could I ask, as you do that, are you looking at sort of model historical commissions in other areas? I mean, for example, a friend of mine is on an historical commission in a township, and it's a very active one. And in fact, so active that he spends a lot of time there. There are history buffs who love this sort of thing. And frankly, at Hershey's Mill, there is an historical committee there. So I'm wondering how much modeling you're doing to look for best practice.
So I think I haven't gotten into the other townships. I'm more looking at the history of East Goshen, but then also what historical commissions in general are used for, which I have a little bit of knowledge of, but I think we're going to have to keep, again, just a brief history. The reason it kind of went defunct is because it was more of a de facto Parks and Rec commission and did a lot of reenactments and what I would deem as fun things. And then it sort of went into what a lot of other people use it for. I know in West Goshen we did were more of land development review when historical issues would come up. But I think they have since got into a little bit more of the history component too. But I to answer your question, no, but I think we need to be a little bit diverse in what we have the responsibilities be so we can continue the interest. So whether it's going back to some of the reenactments, whether it's doing some sort of history events, I would almost like this and talk to Jason a little bit, but I would also like this to be almost like a subset of Parks and Rec because he's good at that type of thing. But then it's also going to be a little bit, involved with planning and things when historical properties come up. So it's got a lot of different possibilities, and I think we need to really hone in on all of them in order to keep it going this time.
So what I hear you saying, I'm sorry, I just was gonna comment, just to clarify, it sounds like you're looking at kind of a hybrid.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, all these things definitely are done. It's just that, again, some townships do some things more than others.
Yeah.
And I think we really want to try to keep the percentages similar in order to pique interest. I guess is my overall point.
I'm just wondering if in terms of recruiting, I don't know where all your advertising, but we're probably gonna have a table at the 250 event on May 30th.
Yep.
And that would be a really good place to have a
Mm.
QR code and do some.
Yeah.
I think we already talked about having something at the event itself.
Yeah.
I mean, right now it's just in the infancy stages, but trying to get it on social media, send emails, events like that. Continuing to try to just get the word out there. And then when we have, I would say another thing is, my opinion on it is probably when we get 5 members, I feel like would be a good number. We can kind of go.
All righty, thank you. Our last agenda item, the Westtown Township Comprehensive Plan Amendment Adjacent Municipality Review Comment Period, Derek.
So if anybody doesn't know what a comprehensive, no, I'm just kidding. So Westtown, Westtown just went through a review of their comprehensive plan, and they are making proposed amendments to it per the MPC. They have to send this out to adjacent municipalities. It was reviewed in-house by Kelly, and she gives an outline in the memo here, but overall, the proposed amendments are limited to certain chapters. They're limited to specific issues within Westtown, credibility for one, which kind of spurred a lot of the proposed amendments. But it really doesn't have a lot going on in terms of its interactions with East Goshen Township in terms of the amendments. So it was proposed that we support Westtown's amendments and have no negative feedback.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we support the proposed amendments to the Westtown Township Comprehensive Plan. I do think it is interesting that they're revising the plan to reflect changes that they've already made. So it's kind of like, it's like retroactive plan, but nevertheless, it doesn't really affect us, so.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for that motion. Needs to hear a second.
Second.
Peter with the second. Any room comment? Zoom comment? Call the motion. All in favor? Aye. Go ahead. Any board members have any other matter?
I just want to remind everyone, May 30th is 250. We're celebrating with Westtown. And we're gonna have a wagon. We want 20 to 25 people to be on the wagon in the parade. There will be at 3 o'clock, concert in the park, and then a parade, and then opening ceremonies, and more band music from the Grease Band, and historical events. It's gonna be a great time. I hope everybody comes out there. If anybody would like more information, just let me know. I've got all the data. I'll be happy to
Miss
talk to
250 herself, right?
250 or so.
The next, sorry, just to jump in, the next board meeting is May 5th, and I'll bring the margaritas.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. Any other board matter or any other matter from the board members?
Cinco de Mayo, by the way, that's why I said that.
Yes.
I don't know if everybody got that.
Okay, public comment, any other public comment? I think we've had a lot of comments from the public, so with that, I'm gonna go ahead and keep going with the liaison reports. I lied, Larry.
I'll have to, I know it's late, but I'll make this fast.
You'll be glad the Phillies aren't on that. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, but a couple of things to meet back. We've already talked about the composting workshop. I thought it was pretty good. There was a woman named Colleen Felicki, who was the proprietor of Back to Earth Composting Crew. They actually have a service, but she gave a general lecture on composting, that you could do in your house as well. I'm now shopping for a composting bin. I know that Cody and his wife were there. I thought it was pretty nicely attended. But but as we were saying, we should probably be doing a lot more communication as possible about the composting to the community at large. Another thing that ESAC is working on is the idea of putting solar, I think, on this building. I think that we had originally talked about,
It'll be on the garage.
oh, on
Yeah.
The annex.
oh, okay, I'm
Technically, it's adjacent, but I mean, it's
Alright.
connected, but yeah.
So, and David and Bob Murray are working on this for ESAC. I don't know if you wanted to give any, update on that.
Just a quick update. Bob is a member of the ESAC. I'm a volunteer working with him. We are working with PA Solar Center. We have found out that back in the day, when we had a board that didn't really embrace the idea of putting solar in the building, we had some misinformation. Our annex, which is the long wall that extends from this building, has an 8,300 square foot roof. That structure was built to be a 2-story building. And if you go inside the garage and look at the beams in there, it's designed to take a 2nd story, basically. So the roof is 9 years old. It's a 30-year roof, so it's under the 10-year threshold. So it's extremely feasible that it would make a bunch of sense to kind of move along. I've gotten some information, Bob and I've got some information about our kilowatt hour consumption and how it happens over time. Had conversations with Jim Miller in another township who put a field-based array that is now 2 years into, or I'm sorry, 5 years into the program, and they're selling electricity back into the grid on that program. So it's a kind of exciting option, but we're just in the feasibility stage. The cool thing is PA Solar Center will help us do the feasibility. They'll help us do the accounting, the return on investment. All of that's free. They will actually write the specs to go out for contractors, and they only get paid when they are in that spec process. But usually they put in the specs to the contractor. If they are the successful contractor, they'll reimburse the township for the cost of PA Solar Center. So we can literally almost get a feasibility study done for so we're moving along with the feasibility study. And Delaware Valley Planning years ago did a study of all the buildings, municipal buildings in Chester County. Our building was one of the top 2 buildings in the county for solar. So the 8,300 square foot roof, the flat roof, and looks kind of perfect.
Given that PICO is asking for a rate change, it would be nice if we could force that.
I just heard today that they backed off that rate change.
Oh, did they?
I got a call at 4:30 from our PICO municipal liaison informing me that they are no longer seeing it. So
Yeah, they got to put out a press release too. So
All right, yes, it was like a 3-day thing. In any event, it still would be nice if we didn't have to pay a PICO bill.
I don't disagree with that.
Just final thing, there's something that Mary Cooper brought up the other day. This hasn't actually been discussed at the ESAC meeting yet, but it's an interesting thing. There's kind of like the fact that we're an Arbor Day tree town or tree city.
Yeah.
Like tree city. The National Wildlife Federation has a program that's called they call it a Mayor's Monarch Pledge, but in terms of the monarch butterfly, which is a highly endangered species, and the issue is simply trying to make sure that in order to solve the problem of the monarch butterfly, just trying to get people to plant more native plants and educate people on appropriate habitat. The National Wildlife Federation has something called the Mayor's Pledge, and a community can pledge that they will educate their public on the monarch butterfly and also take steps to encourage wildlife or wildflower generation and appropriate habitat. it's costless and it's really just an education program. But it's something that if we apply for it and we do this pledge, we'll get another gold star, kind of like the Arbor Day treatment. So, but there's a deadline for this, which is May 15. So I'm thinking that maybe at our next board meeting, we can get somebody from ESAC that might give us a little bit more information about this and see if we want to do some kind of resolution to take this appropriate, relatively costless pledge.
I appreciate Larry. Is there a way that we could just work on the resolution and to be at the same time, because May 15th, we'd have to pass at the next board meeting, right?
Conceivably, you can, yeah.
Yeah, and use it, okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. One question. The composting, are you doing anything with apartment complexes?
There's no program involved, but I mean, the idea of getting people to, I mean, it's part of the discussion at ESAC, and what do we do in order to educate people in the various apartment complexes? It's been part of the discussion. I don't know if there's any program yet that's created for it.
Okay. That's a good question, Peter. It was sort of nice to me. We had about 30 people here and I didn't know about 20 of them. So there's new faces there. Normally these township residents, you see, you know, it's the same people, but there's a lot of new people. So.
Yeah.
Okay, no correspondence or reports of interest. With that, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second from Peter, all in favor? Aye. 5-0. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Enjoy the weather.